I've got better things to do tonight than die.
Nice.
Hello and welcome to the Swedish Transformers podcast. I am Linda, a loyal Autobot.
And with me, Gustav, the treacherous Decepticon.
And then we also have a beautiful guest. Would you like to introduce yourself, Andrew?
Hi, I'm Andrew Griffith. I work on mostly on the IDW comics, but I've done other Transformer stuff as well, which we can probably get into later. But hello.
Hi. I will do a little bit of background. So, Andrew, you worked previously on inking the Transformers All Hail Megatron issue 14, Lost Light a little bit on Optimus Prime, and then also Last Stand of the Wreckers issue 3 and 4. Thank you. Love to see heads fly. Shockwave actually got his head back, but it was beautiful. Is there anything more you would like to mention of those comics you've done?
Well, one thing is on the Wreckers issues, I was an inker, but I was also the penciler and inker on those other issues that you mentioned.
Yeah. What's the difference? Would you like to explain that?
Well, usually, at least in English, like if we say someone's an inker, that means that someone else had drawn and penciled the issue, and then you go over the pencils with the inks. So it's like two people involved. But a lot of times in the Transformers comics, especially with IDW, the artist does the pencils and the inks. But that's all. Just for clarity.
Yeah, of course.
Because what I did on Wreckers was a little bit different. Like, of course, Nick Roche penciled it, and then I inked it. So.
Yeah. You were doing a little bit more of the Transformers that I didn't write up. Let's see if I remember them also. Gustav, do you remember any? I know there was so much more.
Well, I also did some of the movie comics, and I don't know if you mentioned the Robots in Disguise series that I did. So yeah, that was like the main book that I worked on for the longest time, at least.
Yeah. And also the Bumblebee movie prequel series.
Oh yes, that's right. Yeah, that was a 4-issue series. Yes, I almost forgot about that.
Yeah, there was so much more. But yeah, that was a little bit of the intro about you. Gustav, would you like to introduce the Transformers questions?
Yeah, it's my time to shine, as they say. And I will do a little of the Transformers related questions. And I'm sorry if you have heard these questions 1,000 times, but I hope something might be new for you.
Okay, hit me.
Yeah.
Let's do it.
First things first. Are you a Decepticon fan or an Autobot fan?
It might be boring, but I think I'm more of an Autobot fan.
It's you and Linda then.
I like Decepticons too. Don't get me wrong. I mean, you can't have a good hero without a good villain, but I tend to like the Autobots more.
If you were a Transformers character yourself, who would it be?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. It stopped for a second. If I was a Transformer.
If you were a Transformers character yourself, who would it be?
Oh boy, that's a good question. Like a lot of times people ask favorite Transformer and things like that, but I'm sorry, there's a dog barking here.
Okay.
I guess he's trying to answer for me. So that's a good question. So I don't know, like someone who, I don't know why. I always like emphasized a bit with Blue Streak, because like when I was young and I had the Blue Streak toy, and his file card was about how during the war, like his whole town was wiped out and he was kind of the only survivor, and I thought that was kind of like a tragic story, and he was kind of sad because of that, and for some reason I found that kind of relatable. But then I also kind of related with Thundercracker because he's a bad guy, but he had his doubts about it, so I thought he was more interesting. And I tend to see both sides of things a lot of times. Like I'll have a strong opinion, but then I'm like, oh, but I see the other side too. So maybe, I don't know, maybe Thundercracker.
Yeah, he's an artist in his own right, and he also has a dog, so...
Yeah, Buster!
Yeah.
Yeah, we did a whole episode on Thundercracker some weeks ago. It was
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
Very good.
And if you could design yourself as a Transformer character, what would it be? What alt mode? What color? Fraction?
Like, what would alt mode be, or
Yeah.
what would my faction be? I'd probably be an Autobot. I'd probably want to be a good guy, you know. But I don't know. I'd kind of like something fast and maneuverable. So maybe like a sports car or a motorcycle or a jet.
Not like Linda, she's a moped. She has already claimed.
Oh, really? This might
Sounds-
mix genres a bit, but I always thought like if I had to pick one vehicle from fiction that I could just use to travel around in, it would be an A-wing from Star Wars because they're like kind of small and fast. So
Yeah.
that could be a fun alt mode.
Yeah.
That would be
We
fun.
have seen many Transformers crossovers. Maybe Star Wars is the next one.
Yeah, well, they did one years ago.
Oh,
Oh.
I don't know if you remember, but they did one years ago where they had Star Wars characters transform into vehicles, like Han Solo turned into the Millennium Falcon, kind of a thing.
Cool.
yeah. The most previous have been, I think, My Little Pony.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Back to the Future and Ghostbusters. Yeah.
I think they're making a Sonic as well. Not sure.
No,
I've heard
it's just
about
me nagging about they should do it.
Yeah. Okay. No.
It
would
makes
be fun.
sense. It makes sense because IDW does both the comics, so that makes sense.
Yeah.
What's your relationship to the Transformers franchise? How did it all begin?
Well, I was a fan since I was a kid. I mean, when I was a kid, my brother came home from school one day and said all the kids were talking about this toy called Transformers. So my parents took us to the mall and went in and saw this whole row of all these like Japanese robot style, you know, the style robots you see like from Japanese toys and stuff that also turned into cars and planes. And so for a little kid, that was very exciting. And I got into it. And then I got into the comics and the cartoons and everything. And I always liked to draw. And years later, I got laid off from a graphic design job and I started drawing again. And I started posting my artwork online and I took part in some contests and things. And that's kind of the short version of the story. But basically, I just started getting noticed online, and eventually IDW said, "Can you help out with movie characters?" And I was like, I had never drawn Transformers movie characters by that point, but I was excited to get to work on the comics some, so I pitched in on some movie comics, and that was kind of how I got started professionally.
So it was from that contest, right?
Yeah,
IDW contest.
Contest that IDW had that people like Casey Collar and Joanna LaFuente and myself all kind of got noticed in, and yeah, I did pretty well in that. Like there were 3 rounds, and I placed first in the first 2 rounds, and the third round I got like third or something, but I don't remember exactly, but it did pretty well in it, you know. And then after that, I started getting interest from IDW, and eventually my first job was working on the movie comics.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
How does it really work when they say they contact you? Are they? How do they sell it to you to work with it?
It'll usually start with an email, but most of the times when I've started on like a big job, like for example, Robots in Disguise, they'll actually call me up and say, "Hey, you know, we have this comic and we're trying to pick an artist for it. Would you be interested? And this is kind of what the concept is for it and what it's going to involve, and these are the characters it will involve." And it kind of goes, you know, from there. And then most of my interaction is through email. So yeah, I mean, there was a period there where like I'd have to follow up a lot where you know, they'd contact me and say, "Would you be interested in doing this?" And then I wouldn't hear anything for a while, and then I'd reply, say, "Hey, is that still happening?" And then eventually, all of a sudden, out of nowhere, they're like, "Can you start tomorrow?"
Oh shit. Yeah.
You know, or we need someone who can help really quick. And then, you know, if you do a good job on that, they start hiring you for other things. So I helped ink and literally just like inking, not penciling on Defiance, a Transformers movie comic. And then around the same time, they hired me to do some covers for a reprint series where they brought the UK version of the Transformers comics to the US, so they needed new covers. I did some of those, and then they launched for the Dark of the Moon movie. They launched Foundation, the comic series, and they hired me to do that because I guess they liked what I did on Defiance. So, and then after that, I worked well with John, the writer, John Barber, and then that led into the Robots in Disguise series, which went on for a number of years, which turned into Optimus Prime, of course, which I helped put on too. So it was just kind of a natural progression, you know. If you do a good job and you're reliable and you meet deadlines, they tend to hire you more.
That's good to know.
Yeah.
How much freedom do they give you?
It depends on the writer. You know, some writers will be very specific. Some writers will like some writers will just say, like, on this page, these are the things that happens, and you can kind of like lay it out yourself with how many panels and the specific actions that the characters are making. But then other writers, you know, will be very specific and say this character turns this way, and you see these three characters in the background, and this person jumps up. You know, it's like it's very specific, and they lay out the specific panels. So it depends on the writer. You know, some are more collaborative, and some have a more specific vision that they want to see you create.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite writer to work with?
Well, the one I've worked with the most is John Barber, he's the editor-in-chief now at IDW, so he doesn't do as much writing, and we haven't actually worked together in a while, but I mean, we worked together on Foundation, on Robots in Disguise, on Optimus Prime some. We worked together on the Bumblebee movie prequel. So, I mean, we've probably done almost 100 issues together. I mean, maybe not that many, but somewhere in that ballpark. So yeah, I've always liked working with John. We always got along well, and we had a similar, you know, of a similar age. We grew up with the same influences and the same kind of comics that we grew up reading and stuff. And so I always felt a good connection with him. But I mean, I've been lucky. I've worked with a lot of good writers, from like James Roberts a little bit to you know, Brandon Easton. Boy, I'm trying to think. Like, I've been very fortunate with the people. David Ramirez. I've been lucky with the different writers we've gotten to work with. For some reason, like, I feel like if I started listing people, I'd forget people. But probably John would be my answer for who's my favorite writer to work with.
Yeah. And was there a favorite comic book you have worked on? A favorite arc, maybe?
I definitely the Robots in Disguise series, because that was the first time where, like, I had my own book, my own project that I worked on, where, and John and I always talk about this too, it was the same for him, where it was his first, like, ongoing book, and it's kind of rare these days to have an ongoing book that lasts that long. Like, even with the big two, you know, Marvel and DC, they'll usually relaunch their books every, I don't know, 6-12 issues or something. It feels like that, at least, where they're always having a new #1. But with Robots in Disguise, I mean, we did like 55 issues before it turned into Optimus Prime, and that was a really long run, and we were both on it. Not every issue, but I mean, I was kind of the regular artist for most of that time, and so that was the one I felt the most, you know, the most pride of, the most connection to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's beautiful, so be proud of that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we put everything into that we could. We really put a lot into that. So.
Yeah.
It's noticeable.
Thank you. Yeah. It was with love. It was made with love.
That's beautiful.
Secret ingredients, love.
Exactly.
Can you mix that with the ink? I'm impressed.
Yeah, mix it with, a little bit of love with the ink.
And to a little darker question then, that was your favorite. Is there a nightmare or anything you thought was hard working on, didn't enjoy working on, and if maybe just a fun story behind it?
I don't know. Like, I don't want to speak like badly of someone else, but when I was brought in on on the first thing I did where I was inking, the book was really behind. So I was basically, I came in to help another artist meet the deadline, and it was on such a tight deadline. And then you're working on movie books where there's so much control by the people around Michael Bay and Paramount and stuff, where like they're just overlooking everything. And then if like working on the movie books is kind of a nightmare, because if something leaks, say like a factory in China or something leaks some images of some of the characters that are going to be in the movies, they're very protective, and then they'll come to the comics and say, hey, you can't use these characters anymore, or you have to change this or change that because we don't want secrets leaking. So yeah, that was hard, like, because it wasn't like most of the books I've worked on with IDW, they give you a lot of control, and Hasbro oversees things, but they're pretty good about, letting the creators have control. But when it came to the movie books, you also have that other outside influence and tight deadlines. So that was probably one of the hardest things to work on.
Have you ever thought of writing yourself, or is it just art?
Yeah, I actually got into drawing because I thought that would be a good pathway into writing. So there have been a few times where they've let me like pitch ideas and things, and so far I haven't. I have like a couple creator-owned things that I've written up, but I haven't had time to pursue them because I've been fortunate enough to be busy drawing. But eventually, when I have some free time, I want to pursue some of my own ideas. And there is another franchise that I'm supposedly going to be writing a story for, but it's not officially announced yet. So I don't want to jinx anything. So hopefully that'll all come together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Continue.
I actually probably like. I when I was in college, I studied like English literature and creative writing and screenwriting and playwriting and all that kind of stuff. So I did that for like 2 or 3 years before I decided to go back into art, because I just felt like art was something I could maybe, like graphic design and things like that, would be a way I could get more like actual work. So yeah, so like I do have some of a background in writing. I'd love to flex those creative muscles sometime here.
Of course. This is, I will not ask that one because it's Linda's question.
Okay.
I will not cheat you, Linda. But what was it? I think we can do a couple of artist questions now, Linda, so mixed up, and I will come back later.
Yeah, okay. So I've seen you mostly draw with traditional ink. Why is that, or do you ever do like digital art?
I'm just not good with digital art. Like I use it for coloring. Like I just did a cover for a Transformers book. Like I just finished it this morning, and I have a Cintiq that I use for coloring things digitally. So I was using that this morning. But when it comes to drawing, I'm just very slow with it, and I don't like. I feel very frustrated. I don't have a good handle on it. Like for some reason, I just feel much more comfortable drawing traditionally. Another reason is I know a lot of people who like to collect the original artwork, so I like to have the physical thing that people can, buy, and that helps supplement income. And I just like the physicality of it. It comes. I feel much more comfortable with it too. So a lot of those reasons.
Yeah.
But digital, I can do it like for coloring and stuff. It's a lot easier with a pen than it is like with a mouse or something to color digitally. So yeah, I do use it for that.
Also a little bit of a question for those who aren't so familiar with inking. So how do you do if you ink something wrong? How do you fix it?
Well, that I can do digitally.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Clean things up. Like once the lines are there, and I can just kind of go in and like clean it up. That I'm comfortable with digitally, but like doing the initial like rough sketch and then getting more tight with it and things, that's always kind of where I get frustrated digitally. Like it never works the way I would think it would work, if that makes sense. So yeah, I do have like some white pens that I'll use to clean up on the original. But then a lot of times I'll just, once I scan it in, I'll go in with the Cintiq and clean it up some.
Yeah, that's really
Yeah,
good.
fix
Good.
things, yeah. Or sometimes I might have to resize something or move something or flip if I'll realize, oh wait, that's not good storytelling. That should be on the other side. So I might flip something or, things like that.
Yeah, editing a little bit in Photoshop to get it right.
Yeah.
What are your usual inking tools?
I used to use a lot of Micron pens, but at some point I transitioned to Copic or Copic. I've heard people say it both ways.
Yeah.
They have multi-liner pens, which are pretty similar, and you can replace the nibs and refill them. And like when you have a fresh nib and a fresh ink, it's just I love the way those will draw a smooth line, and I love working with those. And then I like a lot of I don't get to use them much on the Transformers because it's a lot of straight lines and things, but I like brush pens.
Yeah.
Like there are some good Japanese companies that make some really good brush pens. There's a Copic one I really like.
One of these, maybe?
I don't use those much because I always overfill the ink, like when you squeeze it. Like,
Oh,
I always
yeah, I know.
But yeah, very similar to that. I think it's Kuretake. I think it's a brand that makes there's like a yellow one.
Yeah, it says something in Japanese, so I guess it could be.
Yeah, I'm not
yeah.
good at the letters, but
Yeah, me neither.
yeah, so I like brush pens, and then I have there's also a big thick like marker, like a black marker for filling in flat blacks that I just love. That I got it at a 7-Eleven actually in Japan. They sell them there for some reason.
Wow.
But like when you use a Sharpie, I feel like there's like a like a blue tint to it that you don't get a nice flat black in my opinion. So when I use those markers that I'm talking about that I got at that 7-Eleven, they're really like a nice flat black without any blue tint or anything to it, and it fills in the full area nice and solid. But yeah, I like Copic a lot, and Kuretake, I think is how you say it.
Yeah, I've used also like a little bit of Copic and Pro markers, I think. Like the black in Pro markers isn't really solid black either, so it's also like a little bit useless to put in some inking, some line art or inkings, in my opinion.
I don't know if I know that brand. You said Pro marker?
Pro markers.
Yeah, I don't know if I have that brand.
Yeah.
Or if I know that.
Yeah, because I ended up with using just ink and pencil to fill in the black solid backgrounds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's great when you can get like a nice thick marker that lays down a nice flat black area because I hate when it looks all scratchy and doesn't fill in right. And,
Yeah. Let's see. Next question. What artist do you look up to? Artist or artists? Where do you get the inspiration?
I grew up like reading a lot of comics, the 80s and 90s and things. Maybe showing my age, but I mean, I grew up with Transformers and stuff, so it's kind of obvious anyway. But so I was really big into like Jim Lee and Mark Silvestri and who else? John Byrne. A lot of like I guess kind of like Silver Age into the modern age, like the people that started using pens and inks instead of brushes and stuff. And I like artists that have how would you say it? Like kind of like a realistic kind of look with detail, but also can incorporate some of the cartoony comic book kind of look. So like I really like as far as like more modern artists, I really like Sarah Pichelli, I think is really good. I think that's how you say her name. She did the Miles Morales Spider-Man originally. Like I like clean, like well rendered art like that. And when I started doing Transformers, I really like took influence from people like E.J. Sue, Alex Milne, and like Casey Collar was just starting to break in at that time too, and like I was kind of insecure and not quite sure about how clean I should have to make things look. And so I was looking at like what Casey was doing. So he was kind of an influence on me too, even though we're kind of the same time. Yeah, those are some names that come to mind. Yeah, those are some names that come to mind off the top of my head.
Yeah. Nice. I also recognize some of those. We had EJ Su here once.
It was our first guest, EJ, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's like my favorite of the IDW Transformers artists, I think, especially because he kind of set up the whole universe for the IDW when it first started, you know. And of course, Don Figueroa, like he was an early influence for Transformers too. His stuff just had such a a dynamism to it. Like it looked so like thick and excuse me, like thick and like kind of, I don't know, looked so powerful and like dynamic and stuff.
I think I said, I don't remember, but I think I said in the podcast that his lines are kind of organic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. That's a good way of putting it. It has a certain like, it looks like, at the same time, it looks kind of like technically accurate, but it also has like a fluidity to it. Like you might see a straight line will be curved, but it still looks right. So I think like, and then I think one of the more like modern, like for the current, like the way Transformers comics are now, I think one of the more influential artists has been Sarah Stone. Like when she came in, she was one of the first like female artists to make it big with Transformers, and like her style, you can still see it today on so many newer artists and the fan artists and stuff. Like everybody like really seems to have taken something from her style. So she's been another big influence.
Yeah. Let's see. How do you feel that your art has developed during the years doing Transformers and robots?
It's gotten quicker. It's gotten cleaner. Like when I first started, especially with those movie comics, they're so detailed that like you kind of fake things a bit. You have to like use shadows and just draw in some extra lines to make it look like detail. But I feel like I have a better handle of the more technical elements now, and can be a little more expressive. I was always a little bit like, especially when I first started, I was always kind of afraid of like fan reactions. So I tried my best to be like, I don't know, like authentic about how a robot would actually move and move their mouth and their eyes and things. But I've kind of loosened up and gotten a little more comfortable, like taking liberties with things and being a little more expressive.
Yeah. Like with the face also, like to give them more expressions and stuff like that.
Yeah, like when I first started Robots in Disguise, I was like, I drew their faces. I tried to draw them in a very mechanical way that they would look like they could actually be parts and stuff moving. And then over time, I was glad I tried that and took a chance. But over time, I realized that what the fans they find the expressions and stuff more relatable, and a more human-like face is more, you know, it makes sense. You can connect to it. It's more relatable, and you can see the feelings more. So over time, I became more, you know, loose with the facial expressions, and I didn't worry as much in my mind about how it would actually work.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I also think that it's a very good thing to kind of, I mean, even if they're made of metal, I think it's still fine to stretch the metal to make them look more alive,
Right,
and stuff like that.
If they're so like advanced and technologically advanced beyond anything we know, it's like you could have some kind of meshy kind of, you know, flexible kind of metal.
Yeah.
Property
Metal can be flexible. I have also been like working in the metal industry, and there are flexible metals that you can stretch them, and when you let go of them, they go back into place. They have like a memory, like where to be and stuff like that. It's
I've heard of materials like that, yeah, but I haven't interacted with it firsthand.
Yeah, I did saw blades before, like, and they were also like stretching and different kind of stretch. Also, like if a saw blade is like this, and the top part can stretch more than the down part. So it makes sense that a Transformers can stretch
yeah.
its mouth and forehead or whatever.
Right.
All I can see before me now is the T2 Terminator 2 guy that melts and stuff.
Yeah, that dude.
Yes. Yeah. That came into my head too. Yeah. Yes. For sure.
Yeah. One last question for my artist. I'd probably come up with more, but yeah. When you started to draw Transformers, were there any part that you thought were hard to get right, like art struggles?
Yes. One of the hardest parts about Transformers is like, let's say like a character like Optimus Prime, he's almost kind of, you start out with big boxes and kind of put on bevels and details and things. But like if his chest is this way and his arm's going this way, every part of him has a different perspective point, like a vanishing point. Like you have to keep in mind, like the perspective of each part, and because they're big boxes, basically, some of these parts, it's very obvious that the lines, if you don't draw it right, it's obvious when they're going, if the perspective isn't right. So you have to take into account like all the different, like the 3D geometry of all these different spheres and cubes and logs and stuff. Like, so that was always a challenge, and just the detail as well. So if you look at like a lot of the characters that, like in More Than Meets the Eye, characters like Getaway and
Yeah.
Whirl and like all these different people that it was almost like a contest at that time to see how complex you could make a G1 character. I'm sorry, are you there?
Yeah.
I said I lost my connection.
Okay.
So just the
Okay.
pure detail of some characters is challenging, but so I need to interrupt for a minute. I'm sorry, I have a delivery
Yep.
coming, so that's
No
that was
problem.
the thing I had to
No
do.
problem.
So it's a little early.
Du sitter här bara och försöker boosta upp ditt eget självförtroende, Linda.
Ja, det är klart jag gör. Ja, men typ EJ så bara, the perspective is no problem for me. Man
I
bara,
do this with a blindfold, what's the problem?
I'm back.
He's
Welcome back.
Okay, sorry. So I should be good for a while now.
Awesome.
Sorry.
Gustav.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I can ask some new
wait.
questions. Or do you have something more, Linda?
Yeah, the question. Were there anything more? Art struggles.
Yeah. So yeah, it's part of it is like considering that with the Transformers, it's different than humans. Like well, that's the other part too. It's not just the perspective thing or the detail, but every Transformer is different. So not every, Thundercracker and Starscream, you can draw the same, but a jet is very different from a car. So like if you have big wings, you have to keep that in mind versus like wheels and grills and engines and things. So you have to do a lot of reference searching. Takes a lot of time to like look up how this character looks. Where a person might be taller or shorter or thicker or skinnier, but it's the same basic anatomy. So Transformers can have like completely different anatomy, especially like Ravage is completely different from Optimus Prime or Megatron. It's like everybody's got their own details and structures. So that can be a challenge too. It takes a lot of time to do the reference, to get the reference.
Yeah. Gustav, now is your turn.
Now
Shine.
I will do some noob artist questions then. How much is in the muscle memory when you do a Transformer? How much do you have to think when you do it?
Well, it's funny that the more you draw a character, the less you have to think about it. So even when I was doing the movie comics, I got to a point where I could draw a movie Megatron without looking at reference. So, the more you do it, but then you also have to be careful because I find that if I get too used to drawing a character, I can get a little sloppy and like not worry so much about things, and it just doesn't look as good. So sometimes I have to remind myself to kind of slow down a little bit and take the time to make it look right.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also, it's tough because there's sometimes where like you've drawn this character so many times where it's like, I don't want to draw this character again, but you have to, So there are times when like you're really excited to be doing it, and you realize how lucky you are to do this, and that's when it turns out the best. But then there are always those days where like you just don't feel like doing it right then. So those are the challenging days.
What characters do you prefer to work on, or hate to work on? What's your go-to character?
Well, I find a character like Shockwave is really easy because what's his face? Just a circle, is really easy. I like drawing the classic characters that I have a really good idea of how they look, like Optimus Prime and Soundwave and the Seekers, or like a Prowl or somebody like that, or Jazz. I like those ones that even though I've drawn them a lot, they're still kind of fun to draw because I know how they should look. But then obscure characters or movie characters that are very detailed, or the ones that I'm afraid that I don't know how the back looks, or I don't have a good reference for. I'm always afraid I'm going to get something wrong, or the ones I have to spend. Yeah, the ones where I have to spend a lot of time looking up reference and trying to get them right. Those are the ones I don't like drawing so much.
Is there a typical angle you prefer or don't prefer?
I don't know. I tend to, especially like for covers and big splash images, I like to do like a low angle where you're looking up because it makes them look bigger and more imposing. So I kind of like that kind of thing, especially like I said, for like big dynamic single page or cover images. But is there one I don't like? Yeah, I'm not sure. I can't think of any specific like angle that I don't like drawing.
Can I put in something there? I've been drawing Transformers for a little bit at least, but drawing these Transformers from what do you call it, like frog perspective, like from down to up. I usually am in the have a little bit of problem where the chest comes in the way of the face.
Yes.
And I'm like trying to like understand how to draw them in that way.
Well, you kind of have to cheat a little bit with that,
Yeah.
because a lot of times, like can you see this? Like let's say that's the chest and this is the face behind it,
Yeah.
and then go back on an angle, you don't really see the face, so you kind of have to like move it up a little bit so it's
Yeah.
or just pretend it's a little more forward than it really should be.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of like things in comics like that where you just have to cheat it, or like
tilting the chest forward.
Yeah.
And kind of that getting it in there and still try to not make it look dorpy.
Exactly. Or sometimes like a character with a big chest like Shockwave or Optimus, like you wouldn't even really see the back arm, but kind of move it up a bit so you can see it so it doesn't look like it's missing,
Yeah, that too. Like it sometimes feels like things can really get lost behind the bulky chest and everything. I think that's why also one of the reasons why I like to do a little bit more slim characters, almost like the American football players. They're like really big shoulders and really small legs. I kind of like that.
Right, that kind of V.
Yeah, like a real triangle form.
Right.
It kind of looks silly, but I like it.
I know what you mean. That's it's a very classical, like, if you look at like Greek sculptures and paintings and stuff, it's a very like ideal kind of physicality that you have to spend a lot of time in the gym to get. But
yeah,
I know what you mean. It has an appealing like look to it. It looks very powerful, but also slim or something. I don't know, but I know what you mean.
Yeah, athletic bodybuild.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah. A triangle. You mean like Starscream from the Bayverse?
Oh yeah.
Yes. Yeah, he's definitely got that down triangle look.
He's nothing but a triangle.
Yes, with a little chicken leg.
Yeah.
Do you prefer to draw the robot or the alt mode or the transformation cycle?
Well, that's one thing I don't usually enjoy the transformation cycle thing, because like sometimes I do, but like I kind of like the engineering aspect of it. But it's just when you're drawing a comic book page and you have to like keep in mind different characters in the storytelling, making sure you leave the right room for this step and then this step and then this step and then this step can kind of be hard to work into good storytelling and good compositions and things sometimes. And then, of course, it's just the time of the different steps. I would probably say I like the robot mode better because you have more chances to be like dynamic and have exciting poses and things. When a car, it's just one solid thing that doesn't really move. Like it moves, but it doesn't. It's not like actively moving itself.
It's just a block.
Yeah.
What colorist would you prefer to make your art come alive?
I've worked with a lot of good colorists. I was just thinking today that I miss working with Josh Perez because we worked a lot on Robots in Disguise together, and then I was sharing some like concept art of some of the characters, and people were asking questions about the colors, and I was, telling them they should ask him because he came up with the colors. So I was like, wow, I haven't worked with Josh in a while. We used to work pretty well together, I think. Like who brings it alive the most? I'm really impressed with I don't know, like any of the really good colorists. Like there's so many, like Priscilla's really good. We've worked on some things together, and she has this way of making things really like shiny and metallic looking. It really makes it feel like you could like knock on it and it would make a metal sound, and like Joana La Fuente is really good too, and like she matches really well, I think, with Casey. Their styles really go well together, and of course, Josh Bertram's really good. I mean, there's just Thomas Deere. I like his work, his colors on my stuff. It's funny too because pretty much all of these people I've mentioned are really good artists on their own too. So it's weird to think of them as just colorists, but well, I'm kind of the opposite. I'm better at drawing, but I do some coloring. Yeah, I'd always be happy to work with any one of them. Yeah.
Commissions. Do you do commissions for the fans?
Yes. I have a hard time saying no, so I'm usually backed up.
But you open them up sometimes.
Yes. Right now I'm trying not to take them because I've taken too many. Like I had we have a friend who has some medical problems, so we thought a good way to raise money for her would be to I do commissions and then we just put the money towards what she needed. But I took on more than I should have, so I'm still catching up on those from November. So, but usually, like if I have a convention coming up, which they're not happening right now, but if I have a convention coming up like New York Comic Con or TF Con or something, I'll usually open up a list for that. And if someone just kind of randomly writes me and says, "Hey, can you do a commission?" I'll probably say, "Well, this is what my list is like. If you don't mind waiting until, I don't know, June or wherever I think it's going to be, yeah, I'll take your commission," kind of thing. But every once in a while, I'll say I have a list open up.
Yeah.
But right now, I'm not actively open for commissions.
Yeah. I will definitely look you up when you have time.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah.
Let's see here. What would be your dream project to work on?
I don't know. I'd love to do my version of. I'd love to do Transformers versus the Avengers. I had I know it's been done before. They did a Marvel and Transformers one years ago that a lot of people don't like, and I think it could be done better. I have it's one of those. Years ago I had like a pitch, like a story idea put together, and I like the idea of seeing how like powerful Transformers would do against powerful people like Thor or the Hulk and things like that, and like anyway, I think that could be fun.
Yeah, Hulk against Optimus Prime or something like that. I mean, Hulk would probably do that because he likes cake. But yeah, it would be very interesting to see. And I mean, like, I'm also very interested in Spider-Man and Transformers. We've seen that before. And that would be very interesting too.
Favorite characters too. I grew up relating a lot to Spider-Man,
Yeah.
being into the more nerdy things and like being awkward around girls and like being into, you know, like just, you know, wishing I had those powers where I can just go swinging off
Yeah.
and you know, that's the appeal of it, I guess. But
Exactly.
He was actually in the, I think the second issue of the, or the third of the US version of the Marvel in the 80s.
yeah, that was when I was first getting into like Spider-Man I was young then, of course, but like that was when I was first getting introduced to Spider-Man. So I don't remember if I even realized that like his black costume, I thought that was just his costume, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
so yeah, that was amazing. Like two of my favorite things coming together, Transformers and Spider-Man. So
Yeah.
I definitely remember that.
We did an episode on those, the limited 4-part series, and
Mhm.
we asked each other, who was your favorite character?
The
And
limited
Linda
part.
said Spider-Man.
Of
Yes.
course.
We're in a Transformers pod, and you're saying Spider-Man is your favorite character in the opening arc. That's classic, Linda.
Can't help myself.
That's funny. But hey, he was a character in it. So.
Yeah.
When you do, if you have to choose one, I mean, maybe on cover or something that you will put out in a gallery, what would you choose? Which one?
Did you see the mega commission I did? That's what I call it. It has like 140 characters on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, maybe that, just because it was like the biggest thing I ever did. And if I look at it, a lot of times I'll look at my artwork and I'll say, oh, I could have done that better, or that arm is wrong, or that finger detail is wrong. But when I look at that, I can generally look at any character and feel like, oh, I did pretty good with that. You know, that was pretty. But then it all kind of comes together too as one big piece that I'm pretty proud of. So maybe that.
It
Definitely.
looks awesome. I haven't really gotten in the details, but
Thanks.
Has it been
Yeah.
colored yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
I could maybe send you a link here so you could see it.
Oh yeah, please.
Do you know who Liam Shalhoub is?
Probably if I see him.
He colored a lot of the early stuff with he does more like video game work now, but he did colors for a lot of the early IDW Transformer stuff. But anyway, he colored this for me. Well, actually, the commissioner hired him to color it. So
This looks so rough. Like, I mean, like it looks good, but it looks like
Oh,
I would
okay.
have killed myself. I'm sorry. I mean,
Yeah,
it's
that's
really
okay.
good.
Thank
It's
you.
really
Yeah,
good.
that's like 5 years to do that.
oh,
What I mean with rough is like it looks like
a
really,
hassle.
yeah, a hustle. Sorry.
Yeah, it was a challenge. In fact, there were a few times where like I started and restarted, like because originally the commissioner wanted like a horizontal row of all the Autobots just standing there, like, and then a horizontal row of all the Decepticons standing there. But a lot of people, the characters were getting kind of lost in the background and weren't standing out.
Yeah,
So then we
yeah.
decided to do it more like an old Dreamwave. If you remember, like those Dreamwave prints with all the different characters, something more like that. And then, but he also had like rules where he wanted, you know, he wanted all the characters to be in a pose where like they weren't turned away, like, or crossed over, like you could see their whole body kind of thing. So it made it a bit of a challenge to get a variety of poses, but also have him in a way where he could see the whole character, things like that. But yeah, it was a challenge. I mean, I started out with Optimus and Megatron, and then the whole thing is as tall as I am, so it's about 5 or 6 feet tall and about 8 feet wide. If you put it all together, but it's made up of comic book size artboards, A3 size.
Okay.
So each one of those, I kind of started out with 2 or 3 main characters, and then over time I started filling in background characters behind them and bigger characters behind them. So I kind of like started with the front layer and worked my way back as I put it all together. So, but I had an initial sketch that I started with too.
Yeah.
Where
Yeah, I
everybody-
see it. Yeah, I see it too. That I guess it's the color artist who put like the glowing outside of Megatron and Optimus Prime to make them pop out.
Yeah, right.
Very good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Amazing.
With something so busy, you kind of have to do stuff like that to make characters pop out.
Yeah.
But
Talking
yeah, to
about
answer your question,
yeah.
to answer your question, that would probably be the thing I'd pick if I had to pick one thing to represent my Transformers art.
Yeah, I understand
Yeah.
that. Speaking of popping out, when you do a comic book, do you like putting in Easter eggs?
Yeah. In fact, it can be time consuming, like to, like if let's say I want to put in one thing that showed up one time in an old Transformers cartoon, then I have to go look up reference and see what it actually looked like and learn how to draw it. But I did it a lot more with Robots in Disguise. There was one page in particular where Wheeljack's in his lab, and I must have put in like 30 or 40 different things, which like all of the devices from the old cartoons that he'd build and blow up and things like that. Like they're all in there. There's even like his cartoon Cybertronian mode, his alt mode is sitting on the shelf and things. So yeah, I like to do that.
And it's really fun
When I have time.
when you
When I have
find
time.
them.
Yeah, it's fun for the fans to look at it and pick things out and search for them.
It's a little bit like Where's Waldo?
Yeah, or sometimes like I might have a friend and I might like a band that nobody else knows. Well, I might like put in like on a door the pattern from an album cover or something that maybe one friend will get it, things like that no one else would even know what it is, things like that.
That's awesome. And speaking of awesome, should we do the guest question, Linda?
Yeah. The end questions, you mean?
I think we will do the guest.
Yeah, the guest. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So last time we had. I
think you know him.
We had a
I will
guest
share
last
my
time.
screen.
Yeah, do it. Gustav, please explain. We had a guest last week.
We have a guest, Alex Milne from last time, and we have a tradition where the previous guest will ask our next guest a question.
Uh-oh.
So
Let's see what
Alex here will ask you a question.
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Andrew, what was your least favorite thing to draw in all the Transformer books that you've worked on?
That's a mean question.
I'm going to say Alex's designs because some of the designs, it almost seems like he's making it hard on the rest of us because he'll design like I said, like Getaway or who else? Like some of those characters, they're just so many different parts and colors and moving things and
DJT also.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. Like yes. So some of those things, it's like for him, it's probably easy because like he visualizes it like it's his style coming alive, But for the rest of us to try to have to match up with, because he's such a detailed artist too. So, it's just kind of hard in general trying to, because when you design a character, it makes sense to you and it fits your style. So for someone else, when you have to do that, it can be challenging at times. If someone else wants to match that design. So that might be my answer.
I think when we interviewed him and I said Brian Shearer was our previous guest, he said, "Oh, that poor bastard. He had to do so much inking on my crazy work."
Yeah. I remember one time I was actually visiting, I was in England for Auto Assembly at the time, I think. TF Nation used to be called Auto Assembly, basically. Different people running it anyway. But I was there and I was traveling in England and I stayed with John Paul Bove at his house. He's a colorist, So he was helping to color more than meets the eye. And I remember he was coloring some panels with Getaway in them. And he was like, "Andrew, what do you think this is? Like, it's so complex. Do you think, is that his arm or is that his shoulder?" So I was like helping him block out the different areas of color because it was such a complex design.
Yeah.
So many lines.
Yes.
Yes.
Usually we will have a segment here called Spin the Wheel, Jack, when we do a subject at random, but next week is not random, so we won't do this today.
Mm.
Okay.
But if you don't have anything you want to make commercial about your work now, perhaps something you want to sell into the fans that's upcoming projects or something?
Sure. Well, right now I'm actually currently working on a 5-issue story of G.I. Joe, which is another franchise that I grew up with, and I'm very excited to work on. And so that's something. Actually, we found out yesterday. It looks like the first issue that I worked on sold out, which doesn't always happen. So that was nice. It introduces a new female character that I think is a welcome addition to the book. It's been a lot of fun to work on. So that's my current my current thing. And then, like I said, I have a couple other things I'm working on that I can't really announce yet. Like one's a writing thing, one's another franchise that I've gotten to do a little bit on that I'm excited to do more, I hope. And then I've just finished working on a couple of Transformers covers that aren't G1. The projects have been announced, but I don't know if they want me to mention yet that I've done covers for those. So I do have some more Transformer stuff coming up too. So I've been keeping busy. And then I hope once the world goes back to something like normal, we can do conventions again, and hopefully I can take more commissions and see people in person.
Yeah.
Hope you can come to Sweden to a convention.
Yeah, where are you guys at? What city are you in? Or are you different parts? Or
We are at different parts. I live in Gothenburg and Gustav lives somewhere in the forest.
No, I don't live in the forest, Linda. I live in the south of Sweden.
okay, I've only been to Malmo in Sweden, actually.
Yeah.
So
It's close by.
Yeah.
yeah, I liked it. I like Northern Europe.
Yeah.
I find it to be a nice area. I always I've been there a few times. I like visiting there.
Yeah, we have a Transformers convention here in Sweden, so hopefully one day you will be able to come here and see the fans.
Yeah, I've talked to some of the organizers, I think, about that before, about getting there. But then, of course, COVID and everything,
Yeah.
Everything's kind of on hold for now.
Yeah. Soon.
Hope the vaccination goes well.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm fully vaccinated, so I'm pretty happy about that, and more people I know are. So I'm anxious to, hopefully soon we'll get to a point where enough people are that we can act like normal again.
Yeah.
We're waiting. We hope soon.
Yeah.
Yes. And it's weird too, because like with this, with the fandoms all over the world, of course. So that's one thing. Livio, I don't know if you know Livio Ramadelli, but him and we talk about a lot about how lucky we've been to be able to go to conventions everywhere from Japan to England to Germany to, U.S. and Canada. So we've been very lucky being able to meet people all over the world who know what we do and have similar interests. And most of my friends are located all over different places. So
Yeah.
it's nice, but it's also kind of hard because it would be nice to have everybody in the same place where you can see them all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, all my end questions were already answered, so scrap those. But shall we go to the quote, Gustav?
Yeah, explain it, Linda.
Ready? Yeah. So at the beginning of every podcast, we have a quote. Usually it's a Linda quote, a quote that I do about the Transformers. But this time, you are the guest, so I will leave my quote to you.
Oh, so you want me to come up with
a quote from the Transformers universe?
Yeah.
Or
act up a quote.
Okay. The first one that comes to mind is what is it? So freedom is the right of all sentient beings. So that's always a good thing to go by.
I think Andrew Wildman took that, actually.
Yeah.
How about I've got better things to do tonight than die?
That's a good one.
Yeah.
Can we get it with energy?
I always kind of like that line. Sure. Let me see if I can channel a little bit of Springer here from the movie. I've got better things to do tonight than die.
Nice.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Yeah, sure.
It would be a great collection for the podcast when we have
Exactly. Yeah. We have to collect them all.
all. I think we was a little bit worried last time when Alex Milne took This Is Bad Comedy. Oh, did we do wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, that movie's got a lot of great quotes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It really does.
Yeah.
But I think that's what all we had for today. If you don't have anything you want to bring up.
Well, okay, the internet skipped a little bit there. I'm sorry.
Okay,
Okay,
I think
yeah.
that's all we have for today. If you don't have anything you want to bring up.
Where can we find you?
Oh, sure. Well, online I usually go by Glove Studios on like Twitter and Instagram and ArtStation or DeviantArt. It's just kind of years ago before I did this, I started, I was starting my own graphic design company and I needed a name. So I kind of still use that. So I usually go by Glove, like on a hand, Glove Studios. So if you just search that and my name or Transformers, you'll usually find me.
Awesome.
Uh, and now in the end, I always end with saying "Till all are one."
May
Okay.
your luster never dull and your wires never cross.